I hereby call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Truitt. Here. Vice Mayor Villanueva.
Here.
Councilmember Longabaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Alton.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Foro is absent.
Thank you very much. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight I would like to, for our invocation, I'd like to welcome surprise resident, surprise business owner of Nuttin' But Fun, and also surprise Pastor Robert Cross. Welcome, Pastor Cross.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for today, and I thank you for this opportunity. And God, I just ask that as they have this meeting, Lord, you would give the council members and the mayor and everybody else involved wisdom. I pray that the decisions that would be done would be blessed by you. We pray for your protection upon this city, Lord. We pray that you would bless and prosper the city. And it's an exciting, dynamic city, Lord, and it's exciting to see it grow. And so, God, I ask that you would just continue to bless this. I pray for our police department, for your protection upon them. I pray for our firemen of this city, Lord, that you be with them. And God, we just lift this evening up to you and ask that you would just, once again, just give wisdom in these many decisions that are going to be talked about tonight. And so we just lift this up in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Cross, and congratulations on this being your anniversary. Go celebrate. Okay, we'll move to current events report by Mayor and Council. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, RPTA, we met again, and the Regional Office Center, or ROC as it's referred to, the last meeting of the RPTA, it got approved 7-6, and apparently MAG has denied it. So right now, I guess MAG trumps the RPTA right now, and I think that's going to come before the RPTA again. So that's just where that stands. And in the Regional Operations Center is pretty much the office building downtown Phoenix where the three entities are leasing. So they want to build a new building or get some other office space somewhere. So that's sort of what's going on right now on the RPTA. Valley Partnerships met at the stadium. Had the opportunity to meet some of the members of that, and very, very good meeting. The mayor was there, Roy was there, and it was very productive, I thought. We got to meet a lot of influential people and made some heard very good comments about the area and our baseball stadium and just Surprise in general, so that was very positive. I want to thank Mark Coronado for his staff for doing another great job during spring training. It's coming to a close. I wanted to thank, and the mayor probably will say some more things on this, but the Sundancers did a great job again. And I understand you were out at the ballpark, so I'll let you thank them also. But just wonderful job, guys. Another good season. I understand that attendance is probably going to be a record year for us. So go figure that out with the economy, and all of a sudden we get a record year in spring training. But anyway, good job, Mark, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Longabaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to say that I've had an opportunity to have a couple of great community meetings. The most important one was a general plan meeting along with the mayor and Councilman Alton up in Whitman. I think we broke some good ground with the people up there. They're going to listen and they're going to work with us in a more positive way, I think, than they did in the past. Secondly, I was, along with Vice Mayor Villanueva, I attended a National Incident Management Systems training yesterday for a couple hours and learned about some of the federal government's response at the local level to things like major incidents and how to manage those. I understand the rest of council is scheduled in the next couple days to go to those meetings. Third, I'd like to mention a couple of functions that are being co-sponsored by our Disability Advisory Commission. One is on April 7th from 8:30 to 11:30. There's a disability awareness training being put on by the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce and the Disability Advisory Commission at the Northwest Regional Library. Your business can help to increase its income up to 20% if you serve the disabled properly. This meeting will be open to the public and it's free, so get out there if you'd like to. And in the afternoon at the same location, we're going to have the Human Services and Disability Fair, which is being put on mostly sponsored by the Disability Advisory Commission, and it will be going on at the library from 1 to 4:30. Lastly, I got a wonderful report from our police department recently, and what it talked about, among other things, are comparison statistics for the city of Surprise, the city of Peoria, the city of Glendale, and the city of Scottsdale. And on Part 1 crimes, which are serious crimes such as assault, robbery, arson, or motor vehicle theft, the city of Surprise's rate per 1,000 crimes of this type are only 25, rounded off. Peoria's were 40, Glendale's were 54, and Scottsdale's were 35. We have a #1 police department around this area, and I think we should be very proud of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and well said. Mr. Alt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In the last couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to participate with Kathy Rice in the City Manager's MAG meeting, and was able to hear a guest speaker. I believe his name is Dr. Johnson. I'm still waiting on the slides or the PowerPoint presentation, and at that time I will share it with all the council. It was outstanding. It was talked about sustainability and the risks that we might have to take in order to get to have a city that is fully sustainable. I also had an opportunity to, as well as Councilman Longabaugh, attend the Sun City Grand Cam Jam. There was a vast amount of people there that we were able to share for about an hour and a half what it was that we were looking at in the council and how we felt about various items. We also do that in our blogs that happen to be on the city website. Had an opportunity, as John had indicated, we did go to Whitman. I thought it was outstanding initial opportunity for us to start the communication all over again from previous years. It was great. The participation was fantastic, and that what they were looking at, should they become part of the city in the future, what would their village look like, and what would they like to have incorporated in their area? That it was a super opportunity for them to be heard. We will continue to do that with them on an ongoing basis. I had the opportunity to head up a selection committee a week ago, of which the Transportation Committee applicant was interviewed, and we'll talk more about it a little later on the agenda. Had an opportunity to go to the Bell West Ranch block party. I've never seen so many kids in my entire life, other than the extravaganza, which took place on the night before Easter at the Surprise Stadium, which was fantastic. The block party was great. It gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people, and they're all very excited about the city, and they now know the communication is wide open with us all, and they are going to share what their concerns are and any opportunities that they see that they would like to participate in. The extravaganza, I don't know if you folks have ever gone to that at the stadium. It was indeed a blessing for me, and the reason for that is I've never seen so many kids come onto the field going after Easter eggs as Mark Coronado provides them. It's absolutely free. It brought out probably 15,000 residents, and most of them were children. Everybody had a great time. It was well conducted. Mark, thank you very much for putting that on. I've gone through several briefings with the city staff this last several weeks, and have been brought up to date on various items such as the budget that we had earlier in the workshop, and had an opportunity to ask the questions that we are fully informed when we make a decision. The last thing I went to is today, and that was the Westmark Economic Development committee meeting over in Glendale or in Peoria. This Westmark, I've never had any business with Westmark in the past, and I hope to do so much more in the future. They're an entity that really does care about the west side and the west side of the valley, and they really are promoting business development within all areas within our valley on the west side. It's a good partnership to be belonging to, and I hope to see a whole bunch of rewards coming from that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just have 2 or 3 things here. First of all, I'd like to say that I did find someone for the revitalization committee here for the original town site, raised here in the original town, Alex Estavillo, and she graduated from ASU, so she'll, I think, will be an asset to that committee. Also, sometime in April, we'll be doing the TV interview from Lizard Run Park, so we're looking forward to that. Part of it will be Rio Salado, and Interfaith will be working with us. And also, like Richard, I met with staff and caught up on different projects throughout the city, so things are moving right along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. I also attended the extravaganza with Councilman Alton and the mayor, and been there several times, and I just wanted to commend Mark and his staff for just doing an outstanding job. It's tough to keep young kids occupied, and it ran really smooth. And for my kids, I know their attention span. It was just an awesome night. Attended a few of the spring training games. I wanted to just kind of discuss one of the games. Debbie Lee threw out a first pitch last Tuesday. Debbie Lee is a Surprise resident. Her son, Mark Lee, was the first Navy SEAL killed on August 2nd, 2006 in Iraq. Just an incredible story, and I want to thank Mark Coronado, the Kansas City Royals, for recognizing her. Mark Allen Lee died in action, but not before holding off insurgents as his team rescued a wounded soldier off a rooftop. And we were able to recognize that here in the city, and I think that was just a wonderful thing for the city to do. And I thank Debbie Lee, who had 2 sons in the military. Her other son was present at the game on Tuesday, and her brother was there, also a vet. And I want to thank them. They have courage that I can't comprehend. So thank you. Also, the coffee talk meetings that I've been holding, I see it's a full house tonight, and standing room only in the back there. I want to encourage residents to continue to come out to these meetings and have their voice heard. I want to encourage them to come to these meetings that I'm having and have their voice heard. We can't read your mind. So if there's an issue, there's a concern that you have, it will never be addressed unless you let somebody know. So continue to do that. Also, I'm going to change the dynamic a little bit. I'm not going to be advertising them so much as showing up at businesses that want to participate and trying to touch a broader base of residents. So I thank those people that have supported those efforts and have showed up and have had those discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was my pleasure to attend one of those coffee talks with Councilman Williams, and it was entertaining and enlightening, and we love to hear from the public, so the more the better. Also, this week I did to attend the egg extravaganza. You can tell it had a big impact. Councilman Williams had his son, Matthew. I had my grandson, Matthew, but the most fun was had by Councilman Alton. So it was a good time. Also had the opportunity to be on TV. The Texas Rangers invited me to come in for one inning and to between the play-by-play calling, talk about the benefits of Surprise and what a quality community we are, and what great people live in Surprise. And that was really fun to do. This afternoon was the last game of the season, and it was my privilege to thank the Sundancers, the volunteer organization of over 700 participants that really make the game a pleasure to attend. From parking, ticket taking, helping find seats, they work very, very hard at what they do. They're well organized. They do so with a smile. They're just terrific group of people, and so I was very happy to say thank you on behalf of council, and we look forward to next season. sounds like it's the best season yet. Perhaps we can have Mr. Coronado come in and give council a little report at some point. Also wanted to mention that we're having a special meeting on April 3rd. That special meeting will be a workshop. It's the first Thursday in April, and we'll be addressing 3 or 4 different issues. As folks can see, this is a very active council, and we're taking our job seriously. We want to get information on the issues. We want to talk to staff and be informed. We want to have dialogue with them so that when we do talk to you, we can give you the best information possible. And so at the workshop, one of the things we'll be discussing is the future workshops and whether we might establish a first Thursday of each month as workshop day where we cover either in-depth 1 or 2 subjects or 3 or 4 subjects a little more lightly. So that'll be up to council to take that action, but mark your calendars for April 3rd. We're going to be having a workshop. And then also, I wanted to mention that we have very good news, talk about opening up government to the people. These council meetings can now be accessed over the internet. So you don't have to have Cox 11 TV. You don't have to be in Surprise. You can access from around the world. You can see what Surprise is doing. And I speak for council again when I say that we're very excited about that. We want our residents to be informed. So thank you, Ken Lynch and his crew for putting that together. That's an exciting thing to have happen so soon. I think that concludes our reports. We'll move to the city manager staff reports.
Just very quickly, Mayor, I also wanted to thank Mark and his staff for just a great job that they did, and thank the teams. Obviously, I think there's a great partnership there, so good job, and we will be coming back with a report on that, as you suggested, Mayor. Also reminding everyone, we had a budget presentation this afternoon, reminding everyone that our budget retreat is April 18th and 19th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Shall we move to the call to the public?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The first person to speak is Dale Pierce.
Dale Pierce.
My name is Dale Pierce, Branch Farms.
Yes, and I've been told that you have 2 items, and I give you permission to address both items in your 3 minutes.
I'm not sure that microphone is working though. Is it turned on?
It is now.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to find out why did the city put a sign in Surprise Farms Phase 2 Park saying that our park would be finished in spring of 2009 when they're talking about Phase 1, and we're only going to get grass seed. Okay, so in 2010 we might get our park. And what are they going to put in our park? Are they going to put the restrooms? Okay, they're going to put a restroom. They never said anything about what kind. Is they're going to put a sidewalk in there? Is it going to be handicap for handicapped people can get in there? Or when they're going to put the grass in, they're going to have to tear the whole park over again to put everything in there that they're going to put in there. So it's a waste of time. But why are they trying to deceive us into believing that we're getting our park in 2009 where we're not? And yeah, we've been promised for 4 years that we're going to get our park, from 2004 up till now, and we're still not going to get our park. And they said they might they might seed our park in October of 2008, and that's doubtful. And we've been promised our park by Doc Sullivan, saying last year that within 10 days or whatever, he's going to get the city the plans for the park. Then within 60 days, they're going to start the park. Nothing's happening. And we paid $2,000 extra for our property, for the lot premium, where we can be next to the park. We can be near 55 acres of dirt lot. And some of our neighbors paid $5,000 extra. And then it'd be told, well, we might put a fence there. We might put an indoor soccer field there. We might put this. Why not just tell us the truth? If you spent the money already that we gave you guys for our impact fees, then we ought to get our part of our money back, because we haven't got nothing. And then the next part would be about the glass. I let the city know in October about broken glass on Cotton Lane and Bell Road. The city didn't do anything. They picked up one area of glass next to the park. The other glass they left there. 5 days later, the HOA went out there and cleaned the glass up. Then on January 4th, I let the city know about the glass again on Cotton Lane. 18 emails later Finally, John Williams on January 23rd went out there during our HOA meeting and cleaned up the glasses himself. The Public Works Department wouldn't do it. And now Robert Beckler is telling me to address everything to Public Works. Well, I emailed you a letter. I emailed the City Councilman John Williams a letter. I read to Nanette Bowles, to Gene Poe, Public Works, and the glass was never picked up. I got a ruined tire. I had to pay for the new tire. So it cost me $31. I asked the city to pay for it. They said, no, they won't. And Gene Poe's excuse was, being as the HOA cleaned the glass up, it's not the city's responsibility. They cleaned it up because they were doing this brush clearance right then.
Thank you.
But now,
Thank you, sir. What we'd like to do is have staff prepare a response to the Surprise Farms, because I'm sure that there are other residents that would like to have that information and look into any other issues that need to be looked into.
We'll do that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is
Connie Bryson.
the mic, excuse me, Mike.
Use the microphone.
Connie Brisson from Surprise Farms 2, and I'm also here to ask why we don't have our park yet. I've lived there since 2004 and was promised when I bought my house that this beautiful park was going to be there, and now it's 2008, and we have all been told over and over so many different dates that they were going to come in and turn the ground and start, and then we find out that they're going to switch over to Surprise Farms 3 further down the road, which hasn't even been built out. Our community has been built out. We have no amenities, and it's nothing but a great big huge dirt hole, which is causing problems as far as rodents. The people who have never had any type of breathing problems now are having health issues as well as valley fever, and we're just very, very discouraged to think that we were supposed to have a nice park for the children, and all we have is a dirt hole with coyotes running through it. So that's one more person wanting to know where's our park.
Thank you.
Margaret Lowe.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Liu. I am also a resident of Surprise Farms. I am also addressing the park. Connie mentioned the issue of health issues. I myself have been suffering from difficulty to breathe with all the dust going around. I've been living there for about almost 3.5 years now. We've been waiting for this park. Meanwhile, I've been having to use my inhaler more. I've been hearing about the valley fever also. This has just become a huge problem, and I'd like to have some place where we could bring family and do some nice things in a park, and we have not seen that yet. And my concern is that we keep getting pushed to the side to the point where we're feeling like the council is not really looking into our issue and is ignoring us. So I'm also another one that has concerns about this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Doc Sullivan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm not from Surprise Farms 2. Just want to briefly discuss the lack of traffic lights at Waddell and Reams. I have a police report that says since March of 2007, 1 year ago, we've had 9 accidents. We currently have a 4-way stop there. There are signals at Waddell and Bullard, Waddell and Litchfield, Waddell and Dysart. The people coming up Reams during rush hour are 30 cars deep, and the accidents apparently happen because a 4-way stop seems to be confusing to some people, don't know how to operate with it. What's happened is a lot of the traffic is now diverting themselves through Santa Elena Homeowners Association, which is located just northeast of that intersection, so they don't have to deal with that intersection. If they're going west, they actually try to cut through where Wells Fargo is. They're trying to avoid that. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a car T-boned. The car flipped and spun several times, totaling the car. I know we probably have some right-of-way issues on the southwest corner of that intersection, but at least we need to get some temporary lighting up there sooner rather than later. I would prefer not to have to deal with a traffic study because obviously we've dealt with traffic studies and they're going to take months and months. We need to take care of this ASAP before we have a fatal accident. So on behalf of the Santa Elena Homeowners Association, please address this issue as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, if we can, in fact, if Mr. Sullivan can receive a response as to what the timing would be, great.
Harold Barber.
Harold Barber. I'm also a resident of Surprise Farms too. I'm here to address the council also on the park. A lot of us are concerned of when the park's going to be initiated. My other question is if and when the park is initiated, the construction, why phase 1 is going to start in Surprise Farms 3 when we have been previous homeowners ahead of Surprise Farms 3 in Surprise Farms 2, and also I'm concerned with health issues of that area and when it's really dusty.
Thank you.
James Freeman.
Good evening. I'm not from Surprise Farms. I'm James Freeman. I'm a resident of Happy Trails Resort. We wish to thank the City of Surprise for the improvements on the corner of Bell and Cotton Lane. The residents of Happy Trails are happy to see the sidewalk that was extended to fit the area, as everybody thought there would be a pedestrian gate at the end of that. Mr. Sunil Garg stated that he was under the impression, after a discussion with our management, that they were willing to consider a gate at the location of Desert Bloom and Tumbleweed inside our resort. This is a common element that would accommodate a gate, and this is also the area where the sidewalk was extended to at taxpayers' expense. It's now a sidewalk to go nowhere. During the May board meeting, there was a motion and a second. This was last year's May board meeting, and I quote from the minutes: to postpone the gate until the City of Surprise completed the installation of the sidewalk on the west side of Cotton Lane north past the south gate. This has now been done. The sidewalk was completed, and the board president stated at one of the board workshops that it looked like we were going to get our gate now that the sidewalk is in. The next board meeting, he stated that just because the sidewalk is in does not mean that they will get a gate, and it was voted down. I'm here to apologize for our board since they misled all who were involved, including your engineering and traffic departments. I am not a member of the board. Nor do I represent the board in any way, other than to say that it's a shame the way they misled everybody and will not follow through on their suggestion. If there is anything this council can do to help us with our requests, this was made for the benefit of the handicapped and the people that cannot drive anymore, and the only way to get out of our residence is with a vehicle, because there's a magnetic field in the ground, and the gate will not open unless there's metal on top of it. People take a piece of pipe and lay it down there, and in the middle of live traffic, they try to get through these things. We still need a pedestrian gate, and any help we can get from you, we would appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is it for call to the public, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And just as a reminder to council, if there's a question on any item on the consent, we do not have to pull it off. You can simply let me know which items they are. We can get staff to answer those. When we're questioning items on consent, we believe that those will be fairly abbreviated discussions, and because consent is pretty much business that's going to be taken care of as it's written here. So, are there any items that need to be considered? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk, we're moving to item number 17.
I just wanted to mention the persons with the liquor license request. Those are taken care of, so you're free to go if you would like. Number 17, consideration and action on the appointment of Sharon Marco to the Transportation Commission.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair.
Yes, sir.
I have had the wonderful opportunity to know Sharon Marco for some time. She has come to us from the state of Minnesota. She and her husband, Jim, purchased their home in 2003, and one of their first stops was to the City Hall, offering their services in any way or shape or form. They have volunteered for numerous positions within the city, both as a private citizen as well as for the work of Surprise. Sharon has an extensive background in problem solving as both private citizen as well as a public official. Her work in Minnesota focused primarily on developing solutions to big transportation problems in both the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area as well as the greater Minnesota. Her accomplishments on the City Council, in the House of Representatives, and in the Minnesota Senate are highly regarded, particularly in the field of transportation policy. And getting projects built is her way of life. We are all aware of the problems that we face here in Surprise, so that she would be considered a tremendous asset for our city to have her volunteer for this commission.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'm looking forward to this Transportation Committee as being a vital part of helping us come up with solutions to some of the issues in Surprise. And so we'll be soon welcoming Sharon Marco once we get go ahead.
Can I move with it?
Yes.
I move to approve the appointment of Sharon Marco for the Transportation Commission.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Item number 18.
Presentation to council and staff regarding the current status for the design and construction of Bell Road pavement for Phase 2 and Phase 3. The second part will be Phase 2 westbound lane, Parkview Place to State Route 303, and Phase 3 eastbound lane, Grand Avenue to Parkview Place. And then background information on plans for street lights, landscaping, and decorative signal poles. Mast arms will also be presented.
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Mackey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've been asked to provide a lot of information to you tonight, information that I think you're going to need to help with your budget decisions in the upcoming weeks. So please bear with me. I think staff has done an excellent job of making a presentation that provides the information and is as painless as possible. Thanks to the assistant city managers for their generous critique on this presentation. And maybe just a little bit more of a preamble here. The main focus of my presentation tonight is going to be on the reconstruction of Bell Road, but we'll also talk a little bit about some earlier planned landscaping and street lighting on Bell. And also there was some question about some decorative traffic signal mast arms. So we'll also talk a little bit about that. The financial impact of what I'm going to present here is significant, and we'll be coming to council at a later date to talk about some budget transfers to fund all that, and we'll talk more about that as we get into this. And again, copies of this presentation will be provided to you tomorrow. This is this presentation was given about a year ago to the council, and at that time we were looking at this general type of phasing for the reconstruction of Bell Road west of Grand Avenue. And roughly it was going to be completed in fiscal 12. Staff has taken another look at this and looked at pavement condition, and we've tried to accelerate the project a little bit, assuming funding is available, and we're looking now at completing it about a year earlier. In addition to the pavement reconstruction, we anticipate that we need to do some other work while we're in there. The Reams Road and Bell intersection needs addition of left turn lanes and right turn lanes. We've got a joint project with McDodd for ITS, and we need to provide a conduit for fiber optics for a project that's scheduled for fiscal 09. Arizona American has approached us that they would like to do some work while we got the pavement open to put in a water line. We still need to correct the drainage dips in a couple locations, and we've also got a traffic signal coming at Bell and Saraville. In addition, in phase 3 of the project, which is from the eastbound lanes from approximately Parkview Place to Grand, there's also some APS conduit that needs to go in, and that's a significant expense. And we'll also be doing some work at similar drainage to corrections as at Reams and Bell, at Litchfield and Bell, to take out the dips and improve the drainage. As part of this project, due to the requests from residents along the road, we're going to provide a rubberized asphalt pavement, an alternate bid, to see what the additional cost would be for rubberized asphalt. I personally don't think that at the speeds we're talking about here in the comparison of pavement types that we're talking, it would be a significant reduction but in noise. But again, we're going to be evaluating that, and we'll make that information available to you. And we also have a public open house that's been scheduled for this project. The cost estimates for phase 2, which again is from Parkview Place westerly to just short of the 303, is $2.5 million. Phase 3, which is the eastbound lanes approaching Grand, is $2.3 million. Reams Road is estimated at $1.3 million, and the Litchfield drainage correction and dips is $215,000. The APS conduit's $1 million. Traffic signal at Saraville is $250,000, and the Arizona American water line, which we wouldn't pay for, is $360,000. So the bottom line for all these projects, work that we feel has to be done at this time, including conduit for future streetlights and landscaping, is about $7.6 million. And again, we'll be coming to you at a later date, seeking the budget transfers once you've had a chance to digest all this information. The schedule is, the funding would all be in next fiscal year. The advertisement, as this shows, would be in June, with construction from July to mid-November. And this is indeed a very aggressive construction schedule. We're hoping that we can build upon what we learned with the reconstruction of the first phase 1 segment and get this job done as efficiently as possible. Now I can shift gears here a little bit and talk about the landscaping and streetlights that we had envisioned a few years ago when we first started this project. And this is just a poor schematic that shows Bell Road east of Grand that we resurfaced 2 years ago. That wasn't a reconstruction, that was just a maintenance resurfacing, but we did put in conduit for future landscaping, irrigation, and streetlights. The estimate for the landscaping east of Grand is approximately $1.2 million, and that consisted mainly of desert trees with some kind of colorful the term here is understory, but I'm not a landscaper, so it's some ground plants that are colorful, and this just gives you a rough idea of what we envision for the easterly section. If we look at the westerly section landscaping, this is different. We were going to preserve more than half of the palms and go with a decomposed granite or maybe even a astroturf type of surface. We wanted to get rid of the natural grass because of the problems with maintenance and watering, and we were going to go with more of a desert landscape. I must say that this proposal did meet quite a significant objection from some of the residents. Many claimed that they did not want to lose any of the palm trees, and our suggestion for changing the ornamental low-level lights to this type of decorative street lighting fixture was met with some objection. The estimate for the lighting Easter Grand is 1.6 million, where there currently is essentially no street lighting east of Grand, except for a few Cobra heads randomly placed. West of Grand Avenue, we do have street lighting, but it's primarily ornamental, and its street light value, actual lighting value, is below current standards. So that cost for west of Grand is 3.6 million for the street lights, and the lighting fixtures may not be this one. This is an example of one that we had proposed a few years ago, but we've looked at some other ones in about the same cost range. So again, maybe I can just recap this. We're recommending, Public Works and Engineering is recommending the program as I described it, but I gave you some ideas for landscaping and street lighting that were foregone in previous budgets, so for your consideration. Well, the last thing I'd like to talk about is looking at some alternates to the mast arms that we currently use, the galvanized posts for traffic signals. And this is a little bit of the history. In November of 05, Council directed us to look into a study on alternates for the signal mast arms and decorative signals in general. We presented a report in May of 06, and in October 06, Council approved powder-coated poles for Sun City Grand. This is an example of the typical signal installation, regular galvanized poles. The advantage of this is that we get fairly fast delivery. It's the cheapest option possible, and the lead times are about 12 to 16 weeks. There's really very simple structural components. It doesn't require a lot of engineering. The foundations are fairly simple and small, and the structural specifications are commonly known, and these can be easily manufactured and readily purchased. And this just gives you the summary of what the advantages are to this we call a regular style signal pole. This is a powder coated pole. This is at the intersection of Sunrise and Mountain View in Sun City Grand, and it looks very similar except it's got the powder coat. Powder coat's about 7% more expensive just for the poles themselves. There's a little bit longer lead time, and it is kind of the coating itself is a problem with maintenance, and it also can be damaged in shipping. So that's one of the drawbacks of the powder coated signal poles. Decorative poles, more like in this example or this example. The decorative signal poles are about 30% more expensive. They have maybe a 4 weeks longer lead time. More maintenance headaches if you get the powder coat on those poles also. And again, a structural engineer may be needed to certify the design. This is the powder-coated trombone style signal in Avondale, similar to what they have in Avondale. And this is the modular style. Sometimes this is called a trombone, but as you can see, let's not do that. And they're very similar in price. The trombone and the modular may be 2.5, 3 times higher priced just for the structure to hold the signal, not the whole intersection cost, but just for the structure to hold the signal. And there are longer lead times, and they're more and bigger components, and sometimes these have to be structural engineered approved for each individual design. So on the summary here, as far as the cost per pole, it varies from roughly 7% for the powder coated over the galvanized, up to 300% more for the modular. And that's only for the poles, mast arms, and the street light part of it and the foundation. The cost per intersection, if you include all 4 poles and the rest of the equipment, the percentage increases aren't quite so stark, but they are still significant, with the modular being maybe 80% more than the conventional galvanized. So with that, I know that was rather quick and a lot of information. We'll provide you this information immediately, copies to you. Are there any questions I can answer at this time?
Through the chair. The APS conduit of $1 million, are they paying anything for that? Are we sharing the cost, or is that we paying all that cost of the $1 million? What's up with that?
At this time, we don't have an agreement with them, but it appears as though we'll have to provide that entire cost. That's to provide the power to down to the new facilities down at the city center.
So they're not sharing any of that. We're taking all that. Okay. And 7.6 for landscaping, was that correct? Is that what I heard? Total of 7.6 million.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The total cost of the project that we propose, engineering and public works, for the reconstruction, as I described, phase 2, phase 3, and Reams Road, is 7.6 million.
Okay.
The landscaping was 1.2 million east of Grand, and
for a total of 5.2.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. That helps us prepare for our budget retreat.
Thank you.
Let's go to item number 19.
Thank you. Consideration and action to form an ad hoc community committee to assist the mayor and city council with the interviewing and assessment process for the new city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is consideration to form an ad hoc committee to assist you all with the interviewing and assessment process in the hiring of the new city manager coming up within a few months. At the staff council retreat in February, you'll recall that the mayor and you all met with Stuart Satow of CPS Executive Search and me to establish the outline of the process and timeline for the selection of a new city manager. A few weeks ago, the city manager, interim city manager, and I met with the mayor to discuss the details of that process. We selected the council meeting of May 8th as the date that finalists will be determined, and we further selected the date of May 23rd and May 24th for interviews of the finalists. At this meeting, we discussed the types of selection methods that the city had used in the past or that could be used in cases such as selection of a city manager. One of the suggestions was a community panel to assist council in assessing the candidates. As transparency of process and community involvement have been major themes of this council and specific discussions at the February retreat, the mayor very much liked this suggestion. And the following parameters for this panel were discussed as follows. One, that it would be made up of CEO level members of community businesses, educational and cultural organizations, that the committee's purpose would specifically be to assess the candidates, and through our facilitation of the meeting, provide council just with feedback on each candidate. It was specifically stated that the committee would not be involved in the ranking of candidates, nor provide council with any recommendation as to whom to hire or any order of the way the candidate should be considered. So as a result of this conversation, we were asked to prepare an agenda item that you have before you for your consideration, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And this item is one of many, many options that we could come up with. It was the one that was recommended by city manager and human resources director. But let's have some discussion on this. Is there any
Through the chair.
Mr. Johnson?
I respect the staff's appreciation or trying to assist us, but in all due respect, all of us council members sit up here, and it's an honor for us, or for me. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it is an honor for all of us because the citizens have voted us to sit up here to make important decisions. One is the budget, which is extremely important, and then to me, it's the appointment of 4 appointed positions, which is the city manager, the city judge, the city attorney, and the city clerk. I think we came under a little bit of scrutiny in the selection process last time, and I think that's why staff has brought forward this to try to add some. I've heard the buzzword transparency, but in I would say more integrity. And I think my suggestion wouldn't be to form an ad hoc committee. My suggestion to council members might be that when we come back and we get them, because we are paying Mr. Satow very good money to pre-screen these people for us. And he's very good at what he does. And so I'm sure he's going to come back with very good candidates that he has pre-screened, and that's what he gets paid good money to do. And I trust that he will give us very good candidates. And then it is up to this council that to discuss that. But I think it should be discussed in public, but we need to maintain we need to make sure they're anonymous. So I would suggest that once they come back and we do the interview process, after that, this council comes back into this chamber, and the candidates are then not by name, but they're by either candidate number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or A, B, C, D, E, however we want to do it. And we list those in our order that we think, and then we discuss it in the open in this chambers, not in executive session. And we don't refer to them by name, but we refer to them as a candidate, label. And then we discuss it, and then we come up in public with the determination of this council. It's done all in public, and I think that's a better solution than forming an ad hoc committee. I think that is, and me personally, I think that's not a good way to go. We're up in these seats. We're going to be given good candidates. We're paying good money to have them go out and get good candidates. And I think we can make that determination. We've got someone who is very involved in disability and human resources in Councilman Longabaugh. We have finance in Councilmember Alton. We have a former council member and mayor of our city Mr. Villanueva, Vice Mayor Villanueva. Mayor Trude is real estate. John's education. I'm a business owner and an operations manager. I mean, I think we're capable, and the citizens have put that trust in us. I think forming an ad hoc committee is sort of a great fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, but I think the citizens have put their trust in us, and I think we can do it ourselves. And I think if we do it in the public, in here, I think that's a better suggestion. So I would make the motion to deny this, but to add that to our process, that we do that way.
Okay,
thank you.
Before we entertain motions, Mr. Johnson, if we can see if there's any further discussion, and then we can go back to that. Is there any further discussion, Council?
Yes.
Mr.
Through you, Chair. I have a tendency to agree with Councilman Johnson to a degree, and that is this whole selection process has to be transparent. It has to be made available to the public. And that being said, what I am suggesting is once that our search person, Mr. Satow, has 3 individuals that they would like us to consider. It is standard that up to the 3 individuals being named, that the information is confidential, normally, in the business world. Once they have been told that they're on the final 3 list, then that goes away. These individuals should be known by name, their resume be posted, and the interview process should be conducted in front of the public. So, yes, maybe maybe we don't need this ad hoc committee if, in fact, what I just said holds true. If it doesn't, then the ad hoc committee would be, I would favor that.
Okay, we have two suggestions. I'll offer a third. I like the idea of evidence in what we do here at City Hall, and it's not because I'm in any way uncertain as to what I want to do. It's that I want to make sure that our residents have participation in our government. And so I see no reason why we can't have leaders of Surprise giving us their impressions of the various candidates that we interview, and that we come back in, as Mr. Johnson has, I believe, indicated, we come back into public and discuss the various candidates. And I like the idea of keeping the candidates anonymous, for that matter too, is we can discuss them by A, B, C, or take Mr. Alton's suggestion. I think that we all have good intent here, and there's a process that we can come up with that will probably satisfy pretty much all of us.
To the chair, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes. When you mention the citizens, how many would they have to deal with? How many candidates would they want to interview or have a process? What would it break it down? 10? 5?
We were talking about once you had you would first select your finalists, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 folks, and then they would hear a presentation. And I believe the intent was to have that be actually a public meeting, hear a presentation from each one of those candidates.
Thank you.
Okay. So, any further
Through your
discussion?
chair.
Mr. Alton.
Yes. If in fact it's going to be a public meeting, then anonymity goes away. They're going to be, and the fact that our council meetings are now going to be on World Wide Web, there's absolutely no reason for the anonymity any longer. So therefore, kind of what I said.
And to respond to the point you had made in regard maybe to the difference between business and government, normally when a person has applied for a position, they expect that if they are going to be in the group of the finalists, that at that point they understand that their candidacy will become public.
Okay.
Mayor.
Through the chair. So how many, I was under the impression that Mr. Satow was going to give us a certain amount. Is there a fixed amount he's going to give us, or he's just going to take the deadline of the 15th, he's going to do a pre-interview with them, is what I understood.
Yes.
And then he's going to present the best candidates, but how many do you know?
I would think that he's probably going to present you with somewhere between 12 to 20 candidates for you to then winnow down to the finalists.
Okay, so I think what Councilmember Alton is saying is, at that point, we discuss that with anonymity.
Yes,
and then we come up with the 3, and then once we come up with those 3, then we say, okay, these are the names of the final 3. But I think the whittling down process should be in here, and it should be in front of the public. And that's why I say I don't feel like we need an ad hoc committee. I think once we...
Just for clarification, the process that we've always done here is that the going through the 15 or 20 candidates and you all looking at those and working with Stuart to decide the finalists, whether it be 3 or 4 or 5 folks, that has never been done. That's never usually done in public, and the candidates would not expect that if they were just in the going through the screening process that it would be made public that they were applying for the job.
I'm saying we maintain their anonymity in that discussion, but I think what the problem was in the last issue that we had in the citizens' views was that we came out with that and they weren't involved, or they didn't know what was said, and they didn't know how we came about their benefits or what was the candidates selection. And I think if we don't do the whittling down of those candidates, I think that's, I don't know.
We're saying 2 different things. The getting of the taking of the 15 or 20 folks and getting them down to the final 5 candidates, that is the thing that normally you do yourself in executive session and is not done in public, and the candidates who aren't selected, their names are not revealed. Mm-hmm. Once you have those finalists, your 3 or 4 or 5 folks, then normally they would expect oftentimes that they are interviewed in public, or their names then do become known. And if you were to have the ad hoc committee do something in public, or you all discuss them in public, that is protocol. That is a normal course of business. But going through the 15 or 20 folks in a public meeting, that would not be the normal course of business.
So is that the process?
Mr. Longabaugh.
I'd have a real problem with 20 or large number of people being out in public. That's not fair to them and their career. They're not selected as finalists yet.
Right.
And sometimes when an employer finds out that Joe's looking for a job, Joe's done where he is. And that's not fair. And I'm making up a name, Joe, and it's not you personally. But you know, when you get to the finalists, whether it's 2 or 5 or 6 or 7, yeah, they have an expectation that their names will be made public at that time. What we do from that point on is usually public, whether we interview them here in this chamber or at some other place, but that they would expect to have a public. I don't think there's any such thing as a promise of anonymity, though. Even if you call them candidate A, B, C, you start talking about someone's background and someone's going to know who they are, whether it's just us or other folks that are aware of them. And now, particularly, like Richard said, if we're on the World Wide Web, they're sure that somebody will know who that person is. So I think we have to be very sensitive to the candidates and their careers, especially the ones we choose not to select. That's a given in human resources work, and I'm sure Mr. Bowers knows that already, that you protect their privacy until you've decided they're the finalists.
Okay, I think I see a process forming, and that would be that we will be given a tiered list of candidates, and in the executive session, the council will recommend 3, 4, or 5 candidates come back. Those candidates will do a presentation here to the council in public, and then the question remains whether or not we ask residents to give impressions of those candidates and take that into consideration. And so that question alone, Council, can we have a little discussion?
Through the chair, if they're going to be in front of us, the council, or if they're going to be in front of us, okay, and it's going to be an agenda item, there's going to be a call to the public, right, Mayor? So our citizens can sit there and listen, and they can come up and they can make comments on what they heard right there. Why do we need an ad hoc committee?
Mayor, if I may, council member, what the thinking was, and that was staff's thinking, was that if there was, and basically we're using a model that's been used in other cities, and like the mayor said, you can do it a number of ways, and but basically in terms of having an ad hoc committee, when we say that it would be not an e-session item, it would be just like a normal, interview process where, you have that ad hoc committee meeting with the candidates. Now, we weren't suggesting that it be presented in this format. It would be just like any other interview process where they go into a room and they meet with individual candidates and they ask their questions. And then we would suggest that they would give their impressions to the HR director, which would then forward them to the council. Now, we were not expecting, again, like I said, if it is an open kind of discussion, if someone wants to walk in and listen to the discussion, that's permissible. But we weren't suggesting that it be held in this type of a format.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Through your chair. Sure. So, City Manager, Madam.
Yes, sir.
You're suggesting then that the list, wherever it is that comes from Mr. Sato, either be it 20 applicants or whatever, and hopefully it won't be that large.
12 to 15, how's that?
All right. That the 15 then get previewed by the Citizens Committee.
No.
Mayor,
City
members
Council,
of the,
okay, you have to bring me through this nice and
okay,
easy. Okay,
Mayor, members of the council, what we're suggesting is that when Mr. Satow gets whatever number of applications that he gets, he's going to review every single one of those. He's going to, talk to these individuals that, come to the top. And he will then bring to the council maybe 10, 12, for you to then say, out of those 12, we think that you have 5 really strong, 4 really strong candidates. Those are our semifinalists. Those are the finalists, excuse me. So then the ad hoc committee would only then interview or talk to those top candidates. That is all. We're not suggesting that they would get into, anything beyond that. So Mr. Satow, like Mr. Councilman Johnson said, he is going to then bring you the strongest 10 or 12 candidates.
Okay.
And from those 10 or 12, the council will select either 4 or 5 that are then the finalists.
And that process would not require a face-to-face interview with those candidates.
It would not.
Right.
And Mr.
And we would whittle it down to possibly 3 to 5, at which time your suggestion then is to have a committee made up of citizens to do a preliminary interview. The same day as the council, what do you perceive?
The idea was, again, and not an interview, as Ms. Farrar pointed out, but just a discussion and an assessment and their thoughts and impressions back to you, while you would actually be doing interviews that same day, the way you normally do interviews of top appointed official candidates.
And that interview that we would do then would be in public.
Mayor, Council, that was not something that we had suggested. We thought that interview would take place probably in any session, and again, that is your call. But then again, like Councilman Johnson suggested, when you come out to then, make your appointment or whatever, that at that point you would be discussing, the other candidates at some level.
Yes. We didn't.
Because like someone mentioned, when you get to your 4 or 5 top candidates, at that point, those names are going to be more than likely public.
Okay.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Bowers.
Yes, sir.
Where are we in the process right now?
We are still receiving applications as a result of Mr. Satow's recruitment efforts.
And what's the potential timeline that we'll see 10, 12, hopefully not 20 candidates?
You will see that will occur at an executive session on May 8th.
May 8th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson.
It's as clear as mud, Richard. No, I'm just here's what I guess here's how I would like it to happen, and here's how I think it's reasonable it could happen is when he goes through all these and he does his assessment, he's going to come back with, like you said, I don't know, 10, 15.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, he's going to already have done his assessments, which we're paying him plenty of money to do, and we put our faith into him because he's good at what he does. He's going to come back to council. Council will perform interviews. Is that correct?
No.
They won't.
But you're going to be in a room and you're going to be have a presentation from Stewart on paper of the 12 of the backgrounds, the experience, the education of the 12 to 15 candidates. Based on that presentation, you will then decide which you think are the top 3 or 4 or 5
that
candidates.
Will be done in e-session.
That is normally done in
so
an
everybody
e-session.
will be anonymous at that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. And then
that's May 8th.
My suggestion is once we get those candidates, we will interview them in executive session also.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, that 3 to 5, you normally always interview them in executive session. Yes.
And then we will, in my opinion, what we should do at that time after we interview our select few is we come in here and we discuss them, and if we can discuss them by name, which you're saying, then I think we discuss them by name in here, and all that discussion is done in here. I don't think we need an ad hoc committee. I trust all of you to ask competent questions, and I just don't understand that portion of it. But if I like that process, I like the process. The majority of them remain anonymous. We select the select few that we can agree on certain amounts. Then we come out. They're expected that they're no longer anonymous, so we can discuss them out in the open by name, and then we can arrive at who we think we should offer a contract to, and we can also discuss what we think the benefits to the city manager should be. So I think that would be my motion. I think that's very simple, but that's me. So there you go.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Okay.
On this ad hoc committee, They're not to make recommendations. All they're going to do is just interview.
Mayor, council,
what is the purpose then? I mean,
what their role would be is that hopefully you've all selected an individual that is basically CEO level, that interacts with the city on a regular basis, and that gives them an opportunity to at least get a look-see at the candidates, maybe from their perspective, be able to provide you with input that hopefully adds value to the process. Because in a sense, you get two avenues. I mean, you're going to be asking certain things. This ad hoc committee might be able to observe him in an activity or have other questions, then that would then be reported back to you. And again, as staff said, we were hoping that that does add value to what you're having to deal with in terms of a selection. So that's a purpose.
Through the chair. With all due respect, staff and fellow council members, you say there that this ad hoc committee is not going to make a recommendation, but let's cut through all the smoke and mirrors. It says that you're forming an ad hoc committee of community representatives to interview each finalist and provide us with feedback relative to each candidate. When you ask them to make an assessment and provide us feedback, they are providing us with who they believe. And that's, Vice Mayor, that I don't think we need. That's what I'm saying. I think I trust you.
And with all due respect, the thing that we had discussed and made sure of is there would actually be no conversation directly from the ad hoc committee to council. We would facilitate that meeting. We would gather the assessments and provide that to you. So there would not be a ranking. There would not be a preferred candidate. It would be our providing their basic assessments and comments about each candidate to you.
Okay, thank you. There's been lots of discussion here. We're going to go to open for a motion. May I have a motion, please?
I'd make the motion to deny an ad hoc committee and put into effect the hiring process that I've discussed, where we will come back with Mr. Satow's the applicants that he gives us. We will come back in executive session. We will narrow that down to how many? 3, 5? We'll narrow it down to 3 candidates. Okay.
The preferred candidate, number of preferred candidates.
We'll narrow it down to a number of preferred candidates. We'll come back in the city council and we will discuss it in the council chambers, in the council session, and open to the public. And then we will also discuss, once we've come to an agreement on a candidate, we will discuss all of their benefits at that time.
Mayor and council, if I may.
1 second. Do I have a second there on this? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to hear what the attorney had to say. Or is it on that motion?
Just Mayor and council, as a general statement. The item before you is to approve or deny the committee. So in terms of any action beyond the approving or denying the committee would be inappropriate this evening.
Through the chair.
Williams.
I've heard a lot of comments, and I'm absorbing everything right now. I'm going to ask that we table this to consider this a little more. I'm all in favor of public involvement. I understand Councilman Johnson's argument here, but I would just like to, I think we're not in a serious time crunch to do this, and I'd just like to table it just to mull it over for a couple more weeks and to consider some other options that perhaps other council members have.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Mr. Bowers.
Yes, sir.
Question about the advisability of continuing this for 2 weeks in terms of the timeframes the existing timeframes that we're working with. Are we good?
We're fine. Yeah.
I think, yeah, Mayor, definitely we have the timeframes in terms of determining candidates and then the interview timeframe, so that's fine, and we can come back.
And can we clarify this is a motions that we're going to continue to date specific, which will be the next council meeting.
And one more item.
Your intent, Mr. Williams, is that correct? The second.
One more item in discussion.
Discussion.
And that is that this, in the next 2 weeks, would be a tremendous opportunity for us to all give our feedback as to Mr. Bowers, as to how this we would think and what we would approve to be happening.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote to continue to the April 10th council meeting.
Very much. Item number 20.
Consideration and action on the joint recommendations of action between the City of Surprise and Meet and Confer groups represented by the Surprise Police Employees Association and the Northwest Valley Firefighters Association dated February 28th, 2008.
Thank you. Mr.
Mayor and Council, I believe I would ask the city attorney, do we want to consider both 20 and 21 at the same time, or do we want to do those in order?
Mayor and council, you would need to consider both 20 and 21 individually.
If we do consider, you say consider them at the same time?
Individually.
Individually, okay.
They would need to have separate motions on both 20 and 21. However, you could present on both of them at once. That would be appropriate.
Okay, and you're going to advise us that there are no items in dispute on?
Yes,
21?
I wanted to basically do a presentation on both items together because there are no longer any items in dispute after some good continued discussions with the associations. So, did want to update you on the final results of the meet and confer process that occurred this year. You all know what meet and confer is, but just for the remainder, our meet and confer ordinance basically is a process which allows city management, city employees, and their representatives to discuss wages, benefits, safety regulations, and other working conditions for employees. The results this year are that management, the Surprise Police Employees Association, and the Northwest Valley Firefighters Association are submitting this evening for your consideration 2 joint recommendations of action and no items in dispute. The joint recommendations of action are, briefly, and I'll provide any more detail that you would like on any of these items if requested, basically to replace our current sick vacation and personal leave with the concept of paid time off, to increase our bereavement leave to the number of workdays that occur in a 6 calendar day after the date of death of an employee's immediate family member, to increase the maximum amounts of accrue that comp time or compensatory time can be accrued by employees either for 240 hours for civilian employees and 480 hours for sworn employees. On item 4, we have recommending that the alternative work schedule concept that has been proposed to city management be adopted citywide. Item 5, to offer an additional supplemental insurance item, which is disability income protection. Item 6, to recognize domestic partners and provide benefits in regard to leave and insurance benefits for those folks who meet the definition of domestic partners. Item 7, to provide up to a 1% match for employee contributions to their choice of a deferred compensation plan. Item 8, to provide immediate public safety retirement enrollment for folks who are hired in the police and fire departments, and that does not happen currently. Item 9 is a change in the contributions by employees to the existing post-employment health plan that we've had in place for a few years. Item 10 is a pay adjustment, and that is there are certain employees in our police and fire departments who have already retired from public safety and are taking another public safety position. In Arizona, those folks are not eligible to participate in either retirement plan, and we want to be able to make a pay adjustment for those folks to allow them to make a retirement contribution that they can't otherwise through the plans. Item 11 is our promise to include premium pays in the fire department in the wage survey that we do on an annual basis, where we set our midpoints at the 75th percentile according to the compensation plan that council adopted 3 years ago. Item 12 is our recommendation, and it's already been done. Item 12 and 13 are already in place in the police department. That is to increase field training officer pay to $1.25 an hour and private duty pay for off-duty officers from $30 to $40 an hour. Item 14 is to set up a program of career enhancement pay for and then that's basically for employees in the classification of patrol officer. Item 15 is to set up a quartermaster system in our police department where we go out for bid and we attempt to solicit bids in regard to officers having their uniforms cleaned at no cost to them, and also to get discounts on the equipment and, the uniforms they're purchasing already. And then item 16, which is now again another joint recommendation, is to replace the current arbitration for classified employees with a personnel appeals board to hear appeals of classified employees in regard to certain disciplinary actions. And that basically, those are the joint recommendations for your consideration this evening. Be happy to answer any questions.
Through the chair.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Bowers, some of these are wide-reaching across all of the employees, correct?
Yes, sir. A majority of these items actually are applicable citywide to all employees. Yes.
And the 75% compensation guidelines that you referred to, that's the fact that previous council passed that our employees would be paid in the top 25% of municipal employees, correct? Roughly?
Basically,
speaking?
that's what. Essentially, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion?
I would like to also, I failed to mention that the Fire Association representative, Julie Moore, is here this evening. Didn't know if she wanted to say anything or just give a thumbs up, but I just wanted to recognize that she was here and participated in the discussions that led to these joint recommendations.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate everybody that participated. Looks like it's a fair package, and you all did a great job. We appreciate that. We're going to take item number 20, asking for an action, please.
Move to approve joint recommendations of action between the City of Surprise and Meet and Confer groups represented by Surprise Police Employees Association and the Northwest Valley Firefighters Association pursuant to ordinance number 01-02, section 3, as amended by ordinance number 06-41, effective fiscal year 2009.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Mr. Bowers, number 21.
I believe that Mr. Bailey has the motion for that.
Yeah. Just to follow up, because this was noticed separately, we would need to take this separate action. We've prepared a motion, and I'm going to hand it to Councilmember Johnson and ask that he would use that motion so that we can move through this process and add this item back into the joint recommendation. Thank you.
I move that the joint recommendation of actions that resulted from the 2007-8 meet and confer process with both the Surprise Police Employee Association and Northwest Firefighters Association be amended to include the version of the disputed item regarding the creation of the appeal board proffered by, is this preferred? Proffered?
You got it.
Okay.
Yes.
By city management.
Yes.
That's why I gave it to you.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Very much. Moving to.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bowers. Appreciate it very much. Item number 22.
Consideration and action on resolution number 08-60, a resolution ratifying agreements to charge effluent non-potable water rates for potable water used to supply common area irrigation systems designed and intended to be supplied effluent non-potable water.
Do you have any questions on this item? There were two, basically Sierra Verde and Litchfield Manor, who were offered in their development agreement non-potable water. We have not been able to supply that. We should be able to supply that within the next 2 years, but we have charged them the non-potable water rate, and that needs to be ratified by this council. This is not for homes, this is just for the common areas.
Okay, thank you very much. Discussion? Action?
I move to approve resolution 08-60.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Number 23.
Consideration and discussion regarding the status of the following items related to water service billing: the request for proposals, contractors' performance, homeowners associations back billing, rate study, and to provide opportunity for discussion and action.
Thank you very much. Before we do our consideration and discussion, it's been requested by the city attorney that we adjourn to executive session. I need a motion, please.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you.
I was hoping we'd get away without one today.
Issues involving the Arizona American Water and the request by the council. First of all, we've requested proposals, soliciting bid, and the performance of all or a portion of the water billing. Those bids should be in tomorrow, and we will evaluate them and bring them forward. The Arizona American, or the contractor's performance, we've put in a quality assurance program, which we have demanded, and they have come back to us with a good quality assurance program. The back billing, the HOAs were originally in the summer of 2007 billed for 3 years worth of misbilled amounts. The back bill has since been reversed, and there's only 1 year's back billing. We have discussed repayment options with everyone and offered them long periods of time to repay those. We're in the process of performing a water rate study that will result in options both in the rate structure and any changes needed in the water rates. This study should be completed and presented to the council in May. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, council?
Through the chair.
Williams?
Yeah. This has been on my radar since coming in. This has been an issue for the city since September. Homeowners associations in general are prevalent throughout our city. You can't buy a home in Surprise without living within a homeowners association. They're nonprofit groups. They run off a specific budget. $10,000 to a homeowners association weighs much, much, much heavier than $100,000 does to the city. Granted, both should be taken into account with equal levity there. Lack of funds due to abandoned homes, foreclosed homes. We're in a kind of a struggling time for a lot of these groups. The impact that it has on our city as a whole is great, and when we look to support these groups that are part of our city, part of the benefit of our city, if we're looking to fill these homes and sell these homes, these are things that need to be taken into account and taken seriously. So I would like to move that the debt that has been incurred by the homeowner association.
Before we have a motion, is there any further discussion? Thank you.
Within the city of Surprise water services area as a result of the backbill a backbill for water use for which the wrong rate classification and or wrong tiered rate was applied for a period of 1 year from the date that the error was corrected shall be forgiven, and then that this relief is in the best interest of the residents of the city.
We'll have motions, and then do we have a second on this?
Second.
We'll go to public. We have a motion and a second. Prior to further discussion, we do have somebody from the public like to speak on this?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have three. Deborah Catilla?
Hello, my name is Deborah Cotala, and I'm the president of Mountain Gate Homeowners Association representing Copper Canyon Ranch, a neighborhood of 682 homes. We have been before this council before speaking about the reasons that the city should cancel the backwater bill for our community, which is in the amount of approximately $31,000. I will tell you that when we were billed for the 3 years, it was $30,000. The 1-year bill is now $31,000. Contrary to any information that may be circulating, we have not made any agreement with the city to enter into a payment plan. I don't understand where that information came from. We have continued to reiterate our position regarding the back billing. Those are that it is unfair to charge commercial rates for common areas, it was a violation of due process, and there is a very real hardship to the association. It is the last reason that I wish to bring special attention to this council. We all know that at the recent real estate market conditions and the ever-increasing foreclosure rate, Surprise has been dramatically affected, and our community is no exception. We are struggling under a CC&R restriction that prohibits us from raising our fees no more than 5% each year. That equates to $35,000 in our budget. Costs are increasing, and we are experiencing reduced cash flows from non-paying and vacant homes, with ever-increasing costs of collection. Our association's accounts receivable exceeds $100,000 and is rising at the rate of $4,000 a month. The billing mistakes took place at a time when our association was under the control of the developer. That developer set our budget, never accounting for the billing issues nor setting us up for an ability to meet this liability. At the end of 2007, we received an email from a city council member assuring us that the council would address our concerns about the amount invoiced. We relied upon that email in budgeting for this year. Foreclosures and non-payment of fees continue to escalate. We would like to remind the council that associations are predicated on local environments taking fiscal responsibility for common areas and parks that would otherwise be underdeveloped or fall to the city to maintain. So here we are struggling to keep up the curb appeal in our neighborhoods for reasons that are also important to the city at large, making the area a desirable place to live and preserving or trying to preserve property values. If the city continues to insist that HOAs like ours pay for past mistakes, the financial burden of that will not only cripple our association's ability to combat the very real problems rising from continued foreclosures, but could place HOAs in very real jeopardy of insolvency. It is my belief that the homeowners associations are the front lines in getting Surprise through the tough real estate climate before us. We are asking you to work with us and help us and support us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Tuttle.
Wayne Tuttle, President of Mountain Vista Ranch Homeowners Association. I'm here representing over 5,000 people at Mountain Vista Ranch. This just seems to be an issue that's not going away. Today we received our bill. We had an outstanding bill of $10,000. Today we received a new bill from American Water at $12,689. We're not quite clear why it's increasing. Additionally to this is that through our SurePay accounts with the association, they withdrew $21,000 out of our funds from 2007 towards this back billing. First of all, the Corporation Commission in Arizona for most utilities only allows back 3 months for back billing on mistakes like this, so it seems a bit unfair. But even more to me is while we have a healthy reserve, there's so many HOAs, we can't sit there and watch the other HOAs that are struggling go down. So at this time and place, adamantly, I have to say adamantly, Mountain Vista Ranch is in no way going to give a penny of that money back. Additionally, what I'd like to point out too is the tiered rate that we're paying currently now. The tiered rate's based on volume of water. Mountain Vista Ranch has a very, very large acreage on the property. An adjoining HOA has the same amount of acreage but pays $50,000 a year less in the water usage. The problem seems to be the water meters. We have half the amount of water meters, so what it appears to be is we're going to use more water per meter, so the escalated rate, the tiered rate's going to affect us on those. And just to set the example here, it's a $1.05 difference between the 10,000 and 30,000 rate. If you just take that into account and I take and put 3 meters in and split those down below 10,000 gallons, automatically. It's just realistic to see the savings we're going to make. We raise assessments, and I guarantee you most HOAs are going to tell you it's because of the water bills we're receiving. Mountain Vista Ranch is paying $155,000 a year right now. This just can't hold true for us over time because the assessments with water increases, we're going to continually face this. So what I'm asking the council this time is not just to waive what we owe and for all the associations at this time, but please look at the tiered rate and find something flat rate for all HOAs for usage for the property and the acreage. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Collins.
Hi, I'm speaking here for Kenley Farms, but I'm not positive that Kenley Farms is actually involved. Robert Estep was here earlier. He was our board president. He thinks that he got a letter maybe a year ago or got some sort of notification. He called a couple of months ago and was told he wasn't on the list. I called today and found out that we actually got a refund. According to the rumors that have spread throughout the various blogs, etc., those that have gotten refunds are actually being asked to return the refund. So I am coming here with no real concrete evidence that our association is involved. But if it is, I speak for our association, and in either event, I speak for all the homeowners associations here in the city. The First Lady was very eloquent in everything that she said, and I'm just going to use a few examples that I've got. This is just a Google map, for everybody can see it, that represents part of my area, but part of another area. But I'm using it to show basically about 200 houses that are in our association. This part of the map with all the little blocks shows you vacancies, houses for sale, people not living there. These little blocks, the little yellow blocks here, these little blocks represent 55 homeowners out of 200, 55 people who are not paying dues and from whom we will never collect. At $55 a month, that works out to $3,025 a month that we are not getting, that we have not gotten, and we will continue not to get until the market improves. That's $36,300 a year that we're losing. We're already in the hole. And to saddle us with something that was done before we were even an association, before when it was under the developer, et cetera. Again, I concur with the second person who said, the Corporation Commission says they have 3 months in which to recoup any errors. And it is just, I have some other back statements that I got off the internet from Rancho Gabriela Homeowners Association going back to October. One going from Santa Lena, I'm sorry, that was June 26th of 07. One from the Santa Lena Homeowners Association going back to October 17th. And there's also a letter out on the internet from Councilman Doc Sullivan saying that he and the council would see that this issue was resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have 2 more to speak, Mayor. Chris Savarella.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. My name is Chris Zavarella. I am on the board at Ashton Ranch. However, tonight I'm not going to speak for them, just as a citizen. The back billing issue, again, like so many of the other HOAs, I don't agree, with their mistake, the Arizona American, something they did. However, I don't want to put it. Who's going to suffer in the long run is going to be the homeowners, even though they're, homeowner associations they're not for profit, and the people that live there, the residents, are going to end up paying that anyway. So even though you're talking about tiered systems and all that, I think it should be not considered commercial at all, and just a residential rate for all the HOAs. So that's what I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
John Ingiani.
Mayor, council, staff. My name is John Ingiani. I'm the president of the Orchards Homeowners Association. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I needed to bring some facts that I've been hearing. One, my homeowners association has not made any deal with the city, and hearing about 1 year past back billing only. Back in approximately August 2007, there was over $21,000 taken out of our account by Arizona American Water. We did not get notification why, and but since that time, we did get a refund back from the city for that amount. Recently, we received a letter, and the $21,000 jumped up to $28,000, saying that we'd like to get that back billing paid. We have not made any plans or anything, and we don't at this moment plan on paying that back. But the 2 points I'm trying to bring up is the Orchards is a small homeowners association of 584 homes. We've only been in existence just over 2 years. Beezer Homes passed over everything to us, and we don't have a lot of reserve funds. And I'm, as president, the second year, I'm worried about, just like everyone else. A lot of homes are vacated, left. We're already approximately $60,000 in the hole, back assessments and other fees from homes in our community. And we're even having emergency meetings for look at the rest of the year for our budget. Hopefully this will be resolved in the next couple of meetings. It's been going on a long time. The other point I'd like to address is the going from commercial rate. I believe that, considering that we're a nonprofit organizations, the homeowners associations, and that our common areas are controlled and it was developed for grass as well as drainage, and we have very minimal grass, and to go along with the city's policy, I guess, of Beezer, we do watch our water, and I can't see why we would be charged a commercial rate. I mean, we're not a big storefront that has a large lot of grass or palm trees to get the public to come in. It's a couple of areas that are green. And in respect to the orchards, only about 25–30% is grass. And the rest of it's drainage areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does that conclude?
That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. I'm going to open it up for discussion if there is any. Before we do that, though, it's my understanding, Mr. City Attorney, that we are in continued discussions with all parties involved in this issue.
Mayor and Council, that is correct.
Is there any further discussion? If not, does anybody need the motion to be reread?
Yeah, please.
Would you reread that, please?
I therefore move that the debt that has been incurred by the Homeowners Association within the City of Surprise water service area as a result of back bill for water use which was wrong rate classification or wrong tiered rate applied for a period of 1 year from the date of error was corrected shall be forgiven, and that this relief is in the best interest of the residents of the city.
Please cast your vote.
For a yes vote, 2 no vote, Truitt and Villanueva.
Okay, thank you very much. We are on 24, is that correct?
We are on 24, yes. Consideration and action on resolution number 08-56, a resolution creating an ad hoc committee to address foreclosure and empty property issues in the city.
Mayor?
Mr. Williams.
We've been discussing, and we've made note of it tonight, and we had a nice picture depicting an issue in Kenley Farms. Abandoned properties, homes, foreclosures, the financial impact that it has on the homeowners association has been outlined, the criminal impact in the city. So what we're trying to do is put together a citizens committee. The ad hoc committee will be convened for no longer than 16 weeks with a report back to the mayor and council. It'll be comprised of surprise residents, will be selected by the selection committee, and we're looking for folks with background in law, background in homeowner association management, finance, and just a group of residents that can come together to discuss this issue and see if we can have a resolution or potential multiple ideas that could alleviate and mitigate the situation. So that's the proposal.
Thank you. Any discussion? Have an action?
I move to approve resolution number 08-56.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further consideration? Hearing none, please vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Item number 25.
Consideration and action on resolution number 08-57, a resolution approving the Section 15 arsenic treatment cost sharing agreement that will serve the Rancho Gabriela water supply facility on Section 15 in the vicinity of Cactus and Litchfield Roads.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is a cost-sharing agreement to construct a regional arsenic treatment facility that will serve as part of the Rancho Gabriela water supply system. Section 15 is the square mile that's located between Waddell to the north, Cactus to the south, Litchfield to the west, and Dysart to the east. The square mile is zoned commercial and industrial. 4 parties have assembled together to build this treatment facility to serve their wells. Those parties are Marley Park, Surprise Point, Cybert Hall Partners, and Nita Properties. The agreement is an impact fee reimbursement agreement, so therefore the city's participation in this is to reimburse them their impact fees for the cost of the treatment system. Any questions?
Council? Questions? No questions? Do we have anybody wanting to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
May I have a motion, please?
Move to approve resolution 08-57.
Second.
In a second, please cast your vote.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 26.
Consideration and action on items to be placed on future agendas.
Council? Okay, I have a couple. The first is that in the year 2010 will be Surprise's 50th anniversary, and what I'd like to do is ask staff to come up with some kind of a plan to maybe create a committee to work with our city historian and our city historian / city clerk Sherry Aguilar to gather our history and to have it in some format that we can share on our 50th anniversary. So that's the direction. Also, we want to I'm interested in having staff investigate the possibility of going after the All-American City Award. As I understand it, that's an award that once a city wins it, it has strong economic benefit, but it does take quite a bit of time to put that together. And then finally, and probably most importantly to me, is that in light of Surprise resident fighter pilot Second Lieutenant David Mitchell's passing, I would like staff to consider our participation in Fighter Country Partnership and see if there's a way that the city can once again participate financially with Fighter Country Partnership. Having said that, is there anything else from council? Okay. Then we move to item number 27, which is back to executive session. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.